Hi everyone, here's a quick video on how to create a surface based on the mesh that you bring into a moment of inspiration. So the first thing you need to do is you need to import the mesh. So if you go in here under import, you can find the file and then it kind of looks like this. To change the position of it, we're gonna change the view, reset this. So this is how you want to do it, is you select the whole thing. Under transform, you look for rotate. Now the way that rotate works in MOI is that you, first of all, you create yourself a reference line, and then you can actually use that as the pivot to rotate. And that's it. I'm going to press enter. Takes a second to finish the job. Now, the critical thing here about is how you use the snaps. The snaps are going to be able to help you out to move things around and to change the position of things. So now that we move this, let's move it down. So same process, we just make a reference line or point, and then we can move it around to somewhere like this. One of the difficulties of working with these meshes is that they're not really, they're hard to see. It's hard to see what's going on. So I think the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to transform, we're going to change how the object looks. So here's the object. One thing we want to do is we want to select everything. We're going to change the color to something that it's easy to see, and also we're going to give it a name. So we're going to call this thing mesh. So now if you look at under the objects, you can turn it on and off. Perfect. To start with, we're going to use the object snap, but not. We're going to turn it off, and we're going to select the spline. And what we're going to do is we're going to trace the outline of the helmet without snapping to it. So as you go along, you can actually create a shape, and we're going to try to get as close to it as we can. That's probably good enough. So you can see here, if we turn off the mesh, you can see the outline of the helmet. Now we're going to switch over to 3D, and something I like to do is that if you hit the pan button, the right hand mouse key helps you pan, the middle one rotates, and the left one selects. So let's turn on the mesh again, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to use this line to base the rest of the line. So for example, we're going to start by selecting here, and here's where the snap object comes in handy. Turn the snap, and if you zoom in, you'll actually snap onto that outline. And what we're going to do is we're going to trace the path on the mesh, but it's a little bit difficult to see what's the surface and what's below it. So by moving it around, I can actually detect what the next point would be. I can see the point there. I'm just going to get closer now that I can see it, and I'm going to snap it to this point. I'm going to keep finding the next point around. Maybe, let's see, make sure that it is in the top surface. So we're going to pick this guy over here. And then the end one, we're going to go right on top of the object. And we're going to pick something on top. So let's see. It's hard to see, but if you move it around, then you can kind of find the target. To finish the line, click on the right, and there it is. So if we turn this off, you can see the beginnings of the wireframe. Let's do another one. Starting over here, turn off the mesh, turn it on. Now we're going to snap make sure you snap on top of the mesh. So again, to the we want to connect to this point. So maybe just we're going to keep going. We're going to go around the helmet. Now, by changing our view, we can kind of see where maybe somewhere along here would be a good spot. And then this point, and then we're going to end it by turning off the mesh and connecting to the wireframe. So there it is, our basic outline. So what's important to know about MOI is that you need to have at least 4 corners or 2 corners connecting. So let's actually make a line over here to connect. And you can see the beginnings of a cage. We have a little bit of an extra piece here. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim it. So we're going to select the object to trim, the trimming point. So we're going to add a trimming point. And then once we do that, we can see that now it's its own object separate. So if we select these 3 objects and we go to network, we'll see how it makes our network curve. Now, how well does that fit with our mesh? Well, let's have a look. Not too bad. We can probably add more curves to define that more clearly, where it's the beginning of what that mesh network would look like. Let's turn off the mesh again. One thing you can also do is that as long as these things are, if you look at it from the front, reset. As long as everything is flat, it's not curved. If everything is flat, we can use the planar selection here. And that will create a plane. Now, there's something wrong here that obviously didn't work. Let's go to the front. Yeah, so something's wrong here that won't let me create a plane, but I can probably create a network. Let's try the bottom one. So one thing I've done here to fix the problem is that I've created a line and I added a trim. I trimmed these points so that this creates a single object. And then I can actually create a network. So there it is. And then I'm going to try it on the bottom. Basically, I have to pick 3 corners to create a network. There it is. On the bottom, if I want to do the same thing, I need to connect these 2 points. Then I need to say trim. I'm going to trim this curve. Adding trim point, the trim point. So now, let me try it again. So now this is a single curve, and I can add a network. And the same for the other side. So there it is. Now you have a basic surface shape that's close on all sides. And if I take this object, all of these meshes, and I export them, they'll export as a solid. And if I save that solid as at least an IGES, so I can save this as either a step or an IGES. I can import it into SolidWorks and then do second operations. So now that I have the basic shape, I can actually start working on the surface and make changes. So for example, let's say that I want to draw myself a circle. So actually, I'll draw a circle here. I'm going to make a copy, paste it, sketch a line. Now I need to use the object snap so that I can actually make a nice shape. I'm going to trim it by selecting everything. Do it again, trim. There it is. So let's switch over to the view. Oop. Yeah. Place it more or less here. Turn off the snap. Maybe move it a little bit closer to where it should. Oops, I don't want to. Turn off the mesh. Angle it just a little bit. And make sure that it's in front of the object. Oh, something wrong. Right about that. So the tool we're going to use is called, it's the curve tool. So the way that this works is that we select the object, and then we say we're going to project it. This is going to be the target. Try it again. And you see what's done is that it's projected the curve right into the shape. Now we can use also the curve to trim the object or to trim the surface. So if you go here, select objects to trim, select cutting objects. So select these guys. Done. And you see now this becomes its own shape. If we play around with it, we can actually, let's say that we shrink it. Oops. Let me try this again. Trim. Okay, now it's separate. So let's move this by going to the front view. We're going to move it. So it's going to go inside. But now that it's inside, we're also going to shrink it or trim it a little bit. And what that allows us to do is that we can actually now connect the surface with this other one. Picking the edges. Be careful to only pick the edges. You can actually do a extrude, I believe. So what I'm doing here is that I'm going to construct just a couple of lines, and then I'm going to use the network curve by selecting the